Our power couple clients also want individual portraits of themselves to round out their promotional package. We want these images to visually match with the couple shot that we just did, but not exactly. Using the same basic lighting setup with a few key changes, we'll create a pair of individual portraits that can be used in conjunction with the couple shot, or they'll also stand up all by themselves as nice-looking, businessy headshots. First, let's assume that our clients may use both the couple shot and the individual portraits on the same brochure or web page. So the question is, do we want our main light to be on the same side for these individual portraits as it was for the couple shot? The answer in this case is yes. This will provide a very neat, a very smooth, a very professional set of images for this type of client's needs. So, we'll leave the main light on the right side of our camera, but we will rotate it back to its vertical position and take out the feathering that we put in for the couple shot. So now our main light is pointing right at our subject. Main light elevation is sometimes taken for granted here at the Crockett Studios because it's very rare for me to go outside my main light elevation positions, which are the center of my main light is just about always above my lens axis, but the bottom edge of my main light is just about always below my lens axis. This gives me that downward push of light that I really like and I think is important in how I've created my lighting style. One very important element when we compare lighting for digital capture to lighting for color negative portraits is the fact that digital capture is just so much more contrasty. And the fact that larger light sources have a lower effective contrast, you may find that you'll be using larger light sources or using your light sources now closer to your subject in order to lower their effective contrast to match your digital capture's needs. So, if you're having problems with high contrast in your portrait work, try using larger light sources and placing them closer. With that in mind, what's a good starting point for the main light to subject distance for digital portraiture? Let me introduce you to what we refer to as our main light limits. That is the distance away that the main light can be before it starts to pick up contrast on our subject. And that limit is the maximum width of that light source. Let me give you an example. A 45-inch umbrella would have a maximum width of 45 inches, and we would place a limit on that light source of 45 inches away from its subject before it starts to give us more contrast than maybe we're comfortable with digital capture. Now remember, there's no rules here, just guidelines and a couple limits. Well, a softbox, like this one here, is 32 by 42 inches. So its maximum width is the diagonal, which is 52 inches. So the limit on a light box like this is going to be 52 inches away from our subject. Now, we like to have softer, smoother main lights with the type of work that we do, so 52 inches away with a nice softbox like this is a little too far for me. You'll find that more often than not, I'll keep a softbox this size about 40 inches away from my individual portrait subjects. That gives me that real nice wrapping light quality that I like, and I can also boost up my overall lighting impact by using a spicy fill light. With an individual style headshot, we first want to rotate our camera to its vertical position, and we also want to select an aperture that'll give us a rather shallow depth of field. That way we can have our subject's eyes in sharp focus, and most of our subject's nose in focus, and having our depth of field start to fall off once it gets beyond our subject's ears. So for this instance, I've chosen f8.0 for my working aperture. So let's set the power of our main light to give us a normal exposure at f8.0 and take a look at what the main light's going to contribute to this shot. Next, let's blend in our punchy power fill light. We're going to place that power fill so that it's on the side opposite of the main light. Remember, females, we like it on the side opposite. And we're also going to adjust the power of that strobe so that its value is 2 stops less than our main light. So, At our subject's position, with our flash meter under the subject's chin, dome pointing into the lens, we'll adjust the power of that strobe so the meter reading pops up at F40. Here's an example image of what that fill light gives us when it's 2 stops under our working aperture. We're now ready to blend our main light and our fill light together. Let's go ahead and make a test exposure with the main and fill, and the first thing you'll notice is, you got it, it's overexposed. So let's go ahead and remeasure our main and our fill light together, and we'll find out that our meter tells us that we now have F8 3/10. So we're 3/10 of a stop overexposed. We'll reduce the power of our main and our fill together to make sure that our meter reads F80 because our working aperture is F80. Here's another example of the main and the fill combining for F8 when our camera's also set to F8, giving us a normal exposure. For the kicker light in this shot, let's use that same 22 by 32 inch softbox that we used in the power couple shot. And let's place it on the opposite side of our main light. Because we have a female subject, let's elevate it nice and high. And let's also position it so it's somewhere around the main light axis. Now we've got a couple things to deal with here with a female subject, and that is we need to know the shape of our subject's face and the hairstyle she has, and here's why. We want to be very careful that we don't create a bright highlight or hit on our subject's far cheek. That's a masculine lighting technique that we'll use to our advantage later when we photograph her husband. But we want to make sure that if we have a little highlight there, it's very smooth and soft and not very dominant. So we may want to position this main light around the back of the subject just a little bit more. But be very careful. Mean old Mr. Lens Flare might be headed your way if you get it too far back. So you may want to make sure that it's a little further out of your frame if you're going to be bringing it around so that you don't get that highlight on our subject's far cheek. The exposure value that you choose for your kicker light is really depending on you and your taste. You can go ahead and meter that kicker light so that it's equal to your working aperture to give you a bold and vivid kicker light. Or I've chosen to have my kicker light 1 stop less than my working aperture to give us that smooth kicker that we had in the power couple shot. Either way, the choice is totally up to you. You also may discover that subjects with lighter colored hair are going to want to have that kicker light at least 1 stop less, maybe 1.5 stops less than your main light. I love to give my clients options when selecting the images that they want to purchase. So let me show you some options for lighting the background in this instance. So here's an example image of our final shot on the gray muslin with the blue gelled background light placed right in the center. Now I like to offset my background lights a lot, and I'll place the center of my background light on the side opposite of my main. This gives me a little more impact and a little visual twist to how you kind of look into the image. So let's move that background light down and to the left a little bit and show you here it's brighter on the lower left than it is in the upper right. That gives us a nice dramatic kind of fade off that goes in a diagonal direction that sometimes is a little more businessy or action oriented. Now if you think that muslin is a little too busy and full of detail for this shot, why don't you go ahead and substitute a roll of gray sweep paper for it. Here's an example of our blue background light on a gray sweep paper. And a third option would be that you can remove the blue gel altogether and make your background run from white in the lower left corner to gray in the upper right corner. Once again, we've built that diagonal in our background to add a little more excitement to the image. This is going to give your client plenty of options to choose from, and all 3 of these options will visually match the power couple shot.